Now, this is going to be another one of my longer videos. You also might see my dogs in the background playing around and jumping on the bed and whatnot. But for starters, I absolutely reject the murders of those cops out in Dallas for the same reason I would reject the murders of a lot of different people, you know. And the reason I'm about to take the angle that I am is because I saw a lot of people among the anarchists, more voluntarist and libertarian camp condoning the murders of these cops out here in Dallas. So I don't condone the murders of the cops from a moral standpoint, and I completely reject it from a strategic standpoint when we talk about bringing about liberty in a free and stateless society. Now, I want the state to be abolished. I want it to be abolished. I don't want it to exist. That is not a secret. But understanding why that is very, very important. I don't want it to be abolished simply because I'm sour. I want it to be abolished because I recognize it as the coercive entity that it is. It's a forceful ruling over people without their consent. And they have a monopoly on violence and use of force. It is such a dangerous religious cling to the state. I recognize that. I understand that the state has the law enforcement, and the first point of contact is usually the cops, being those law enforcers. That's why a lot of people say without cops, really the ruling class has no way to enforce their rules. That's true. And I have no desire to defend the position and what it represents. Hell, I believe the last time I went to jail, I was actually outside of this party years ago, and there was a scuffle, and the cops came, and I wasn't even part of the actual scuffle, but I ended up getting my name ran by the cops, and of course I had a warrant for my arrest. And a warrant was because I didn't pay a ticket, in which was failure to prove insurance and rolling through a stop sign. And I did have insurance, and they could have looked that up, but I rolled through a stop sign literally down the street from my house. And I'm not talking miles. I'm talking about maybe 300 meters from my house. And I went to jail for that victimless, petty. Nobody was around. It's like 10 o'clock at night, and I went to jail for that being done in the past and me not paying that silly ticket. So of course I have no reason to defend the cop. But how are people rationalizing the killing of a cop? It's because they recognize that they understand that a cop really enforces the rules, and many of those are unjust laws. They have no victim. It's because they have the authority to do that. To initiate violence on peaceful people, and it's been seen as legitimate. That I don't reject. But what I do reject is that it's morally acceptable to kill a cop simply because he's a representative of that coercive entity. So you're killing a representative because he is a representative. So you're not killing him because of what he's done as an individual, but rather what he can do and what he's allowed to do. And it's sad that a lot of this logic and justification is coming from people that are more individualist anarchists. More individualist anarchists, yet they approach this entire situation from a collectivist standpoint. So we're talking about the situation that happened out here in Dallas. It was a bunch of brothers and sisters, black folks, pissed off, at the recent two shootings. Out in Sterling, out in Baton Rouge, I believe, and that brother out in Minnesota, I forget his name, killed by cops. They pissed off. It was more of a peaceful, protest kind of. Now there were cops there, and the cops that were killed, I believe 5 of them, they were not the cops that shot out in Sterling or their brother in Minnesota. These were cops that were facilitating this protest, and they got shot. So the people that are saying that it's perfectly, fine, have absolutely no idea how those cops policed. Now I'm not saying that they did, but it's very possible that all they did was protect people from aggressors. They haven't killed anybody or arrested them for a victimless crime. I'm not saying that this happened, but again, you don't know. But you're assuming that they did because of what the position is and what they can do, or rather what they're allowed to do, and it be seen as legitimate. That's as collectivist as it gets. You're undermining the individual. At the point when those cops were killed, it wasn't a direct initiation of violence. It wasn't a direct initiation of force that will somehow make it, I guess, justified for somebody to be shooting at them. It would be different if you were in your house and cops raided your, house, kicked down your door, and about they're wanting to arrest you because of some silly unjust warrant of some sort that they're serving. At that point, they have become the direct aggressor. They're a direct threat, and if you shoot them, there's no from a moral standpoint, it's not necessarily immoral, I guess. But going to a random cop and shooting them simply because they are a cop, you are the direct aggressor. And if you were to say, well, it's different because of what they have the authority to do, because they can initiate violence, those cops, and it be seen as legitimate. Even at best, that's absurd, because even at best, you can assume that they've enforced an unjust law because they're a cop. But who the hell consented to you doing that and going to kill a cop on that person's behalf? Who consented to that? You're providing a service that nobody asked you for. You have reduced yourself to a status. But why draw the line there? Why draw it there? If you got a beef with these people because they have the authority to do the craziness that they can do, why stop at the people that patrol the streets? Can we kill the dispatchers? Can we kill the cop that's working at a desk? Can we kill a cop who's on the first day of the job and they're being security at an event? Why stop? Why not kill the teachers? They're agents of the state. Hell, a lot of people, let's extend it all the way. People say that voting, and I'm not about to dispute if this is true or not. People say that voting, because you basically are trying to force your opinion on everybody else, by way of force, well, not necessarily by way of force, but voting for somebody to do it by force, you're an aggressor. They say voting is aggression. No, give or take, that's the reason. But they say voting is aggression. If voting is aggression, why are we not lining up, or is it right and justified for somebody to be lining up, airing out people because they about to vote, or airing out actual voters, as going up to random people? Hey, did you vote this past the list? They say yes. You shoot them in the face, kill them dead. Again, that's silly. Now, I'm not trying to protect the coercive entity. I can't say that enough. I'm just acknowledging the individual rather than approaching it as if I'm a collectivist. I think that anybody that seeks to become a cop is very, very misguided. Anybody that seeks to be an agent of the state in any way, shape, or form is very, very misguided. Now, but getting to my second point. Killing of random cops, shooting at random cops is foolish from a strategic standpoint. It's especially stupid when considering the cops that were killed in Dallas. Ironically enough, the killer is somebody that, I'm not going to say his name, I'm not going to give him that publicity, but the killer is somebody that I know, people that went to school with him. He's from out here, we're the same age, pretty much. He's like 25. Now if he's killing cops because he's tired of black people getting killed by cops, he's not killing to bring about a stateless society. That is not his intentions. If you go to the majority of actual protesters that were there, and I guarantee you, I'm willing to put 100 bones on this, that you ask them if they want a state to exist, they're going to say yes. Even if you ask the most extreme organizations that actually advocate for killing of cops, to be extreme black kind of supremacists, who have to advocate for killing of cops, they are still statists. They just mad because, again, the state is not working on their behalf. This is why people call for reform and not abolition. They don't call for a free society. So those cops getting killed, you have not gotten any closer, not an ounce closer, an inch closer to liberty. If we are to obtain a stateless society, a voluntary society, there has to be an education process. You can shoot cops. You can shoot every representative of the state. And that doesn't mean you've gotten any closer to a free society. The state is a state of mind. We said that in our backwards song, but people believe the state to be legitimate. That's why it exists as it does. So if we are not educating people, if we are not to educate folks, maybe even coming up with like coercive alternatives, to the services that are provided by the state. If we don't do that, we've got nowhere. It's funny because many of these that are condoning this foolishness recognize what a blowback is. They recognize what happened. It happened in the Middle East. They understand the topic of different regimes and regime changes and the undesired effect that it has had, which is breeding terrorist organizations and making it much worse out there. Bigger and more dangerous states are forming. We see what's going down with ISIS. I have no idea why they don't think killing of cops can't result in some type of have a blowback effect. I just don't understand it. Maybe the state starts expanding. Maybe they start creating new laws. Giving themselves more authority to do things that they maybe couldn't have done before. Maybe they start doing that. These cops that you kill still have to go back to families. Maybe you've inspired them to go and be cops. Hell, right now, I believe the other day, Snoop Dogg and the Game just linked up with LAPD to talk about, kind of bridging that gap. You know what I mean? And, and this is more of a reform effort. This is not the abolition of any kind of state. Some of them, the protesters, are actually protecting them, the cops, that is. Basically saying that, my dog keeps chewing his bone, but, it's getting on my nerves. But basically, what they're saying is they're trying to have some type of reform. And they're protecting the cops, and they're saying that, well, I got to pick up this bone because this damn dog is getting on my nerves, but they're protecting them, saying, like, don't kill cops. We don't condone this. A lot of even the Black Lives Matter, like, they're people that really out there advocating, doing the marches, they came out and they're like, look, we don't condone this. So you can absolutely breed, by killing cops, you can breed more status. A revolution, it may be inevitable. It may be inevitable. I'm not going to disagree with that, but that doesn't mean that there won't be a bigger and stronger state. So we had better be educating. Had the American Revolution, that ended when, like 1783? By 1791, George Washington was taxing whiskey. This is why education is so important. If folks think like they do now, when you killing these cops, you've done nothing but replaced. There's going to be a status that replaced. So you're replacing a status with another status. If we revolted right now in 2016, it's not going to be a bunch of volunteers. It's a bunch of status. Now, I'm not trying to protect the cops in their position. I have no desire to do this. I've said this like 40 times. I'm not suggesting that you should be losing sleep because, a cop died. I'm not saying that you should sit back and not fight tyranny. I'm not a pacifist. Oh, no. I'm simply saying there's a difference between killing someone for a collectivist reason than killing someone that is directly initiating violence. And I'm simply saying that from a strategic standpoint, it's absolutely moronic to kill random cops. I advocate for peace. I advocate for love and voluntarism.